Hey, you're listening to the Riverdale podcast. This is episode number 69. My name is Jonathan. Welcome to lovely Riverdale, USA. This is a weekly Archie Comics fan podcast. We update every Saturday morning, and every Saturday morning we break things down into 4 categories. The first category is the book of the week. That's the comic book I read this week. Sometimes it's a new comic book, sometimes it's an old comic book, but it's always an Archie comic book. We move then to the news of the week. That's what happened in the week since our last podcast in the world of Archie. Then we move on to new releases. That's what came out this past Wednesday and what's coming up this coming Wednesday. And we're going to wrap things up today, soliciting your ideas. I guess we'll get to that when we get to it. But that's what the show looks like this week. Thanks so much for listening. Let's get on to the book of the week. This week's book of the week is a gem from the past. This is Archie's Ham Radio Adventure. You'll definitely want to head over to RiverdalePodcast.com and take a look at the cover of this comic. What is Archie's Ham Radio Adventure? It is a promotional comic book made in 1986, published by Archie Comics. There's some copy here I could read directly to you. It says here on the inside cover, Archie's Ham Radio Adventure is a joint project of the amateur radio industry and the American Radio Relay League, the National Ham Radio Organization. The ARRL, founded in 1914, is a nonprofit membership organization with about 150,000 members nationwide. It goes on, it goes on. I have no idea how this came about, but this is a brilliant and strange piece of Archie history. I was looking for a book to talk about this week, and I went through my short boxes of Archie books, and this came up immediately. I hadn't read this yet. I picked it up in a quarter bin months ago because how do you pass up Archie's Ham Radio Adventure for a quarter? Starting off the issue is a great cover by Stan Goldberg with Archie and Dilton at the ham radio in the center and then radiating out with these sort of jagged radio waves. We see a bunch of different scenes from the comic book, and a bold tagline that reads, "Ride the airwaves to fun and excitement with Archie and all his friends." And we've got Veronica, Archie, Betty, Jughead, Dilton, Reggie, and Moose on the cover, and those are the characters we spend the book with, hanging out with. As we get into the first page, we realize that this is the top-notch of Archie contributors, Archie artists, Archie writers. We have Bob Bowling turning in the script. Classic little Archie artist, Bob Bowling. Art by Stan Goldberg. Inks by Mike Esposito. That is crazy. Letters by Rod Ollerenshaw. I don't know him. Coloring and production by Barry Grossman, as always. And our editors are Victor Gorelick, Richard Goldwater, and Michael Silberkleit. I'm going to attempt to run down the plot of this issue for you. I want to preface that by saying that this is one of the more absurd comic books that I've ever read. It is fantastic. The issue opens with an exploding, erupting volcano in South America. The kids are watching this on the news at Pops, and Dilton says, "I know someone in that small South American town. I have to get to the ham radio and see if he's all right." So this introduces ham radio to the plot. Dilton finds out that his friend is okay. Everything is all right. In the meantime, Veronica arrives in full Viking garb, which is ridiculous. And she is riding in a car with 2 small twin boys who are playing a stand-up bass. I don't know if these are characters that were part of the Archie mythos in the 1980s or not, but they are introduced as the Feebly twins, Glenn and Ben. One apparently plays the fretboard of the upright bass while the other plucks the upright bass at the bottom. It has something to do with this operetta that Veronica is working on. This becomes somewhat integral to the plot later. But Veronica invites everyone to be part of her operetta, which is being assisted by this famous movie director, O.O. Wellenmelon, who is a very Hollywood-looking guy in the stereotypical sense that he is wearing a red beret and an ascot. So Veronica invites everyone to the one of the many gymnasiums on the lodge estate to be part of this operetta that she is putting on with this famous movie director. Dilton shows up because apparently this movie director, O.O. Wellenmelon, is also a ham radio expert. Absurd. Dilton goes and talks to him about a few things and realizes that this director is not the real deal. He is, in fact, an imposter. So, Dilton and Archie try to figure out what they're going to do and what this guy's plan is. In the meantime, try to follow me here, a dam breaks. There's an earthquake, a dam breaks, and floods Riverdale. Thankfully, all the folks who are practicing for Veronica's big opera are in a giant Viking vessel. This is, of course, Moose, Jughead, Reggie, Betty, Veronica, and the tiny Feebly twins who play the upright bass. And they are all in this giant Viking ship, which gets swept up in the floodwaters and carried downstream. Now, of course, they need to be rescued because this is not an actual seafaring vessel. This is a prop for an opera. So Archie and Dilton on dry land are running around, and Veronica's father, Hiram Lodge, is in a helicopter with his helicopter pilot friend coming back from inspecting an oil rig. And the day is saved through the use of ham radio. Of course, with the flood, power lines go down or telephone lines go down, and only ham radio can act as a communication between Archie and Dilton on the ground, Hiram in the air, and the police and medical professionals. As all of this is going on, we completely forget about, of course, the famous director O.O. Wellenmelon, who has, we find at the end of the issue, has stolen a bunch of Mr. Lodge's jewels and is trying to get away with them. And this is quickly taken care of when Archie throws a handheld ham radio set at O.O. Wellenmelon, knocking him unconscious. Dilton and the tiny blonde twins then wrestle the back fin of an airplane to keep it from taking off with all of the jewels, and the day is saved thanks to ham radio. At the end of the issue, everyone is back at the Lodge's house looking at Hiram Lodge's impressive ham radio setup, and everyone is very impressed and wants to get involved in ham radio, and Dilton invites them all to come to the school's next ham radio meeting on Tuesday. And not enough can be said about this. I love books like this. It's decidedly of an era. If you had told me that Archie had made a comic about ham radio, I would not have placed it in 1986. I would have placed it much, much earlier than that. But for what it is, a lot of fun. I laughed out loud multiple times. Granted, maybe at the expense of the age and the dated nature of the book. But I had a blast reading it. And it gave Stan Goldberg quite a bit to draw. Helicopters and floods and ships, and as I said, the erupting volcano at the beginning of the issue. There are a lot of set pieces found in here that you're not going to find in your average Archie comic, and it's great to see Stan Goldberg sort of stretch his abilities to make those things happen. The inks by Mike Esposito are terrific, of course. All inks by Mike Esposito are terrific. We talked pretty extensively about Mike Esposito back when I talked to Steve Stern a few weeks ago. He had a lot of nice things to say about him. But there we go, guys. I don't know if you can track this down. If you can, definitely pick it up. It's a strange and wondrous piece of Archie history. In the back, we have some common words used in ham radio. We have some information on getting your novice and technician license for ham radio. There's a word search, and it teaches you a bit about Morse code on the back cover. So fun and informative is this week's Book of the Week, the classic 1986 promotional comic, Archie's Ham Radio Adventure. Archie News. In Archie News this week, over at Kotaku.com, they have posted the Sonic the Hedgehog number 250 variant covers and a couple of the interior pages by variants by a number of artists, interior pages and some covers by Ben Bates, who is coming back to the title. Super excited about that. He did a lot of the early issues of Mega Man. He's a great, great artist, Ben Bates. And we got a few interior pages, including a huge splash page of all the Robot Masters, a huge number of characters. I don't recognize half of them from the Sonic and the Mega Man universes colliding in this gigantic double-page spread. You've got to check that out over at Kotaku.com. And, of course, that's coming next week, Sonic the Hedgehog, number 250. Number of variant covers, great art. Good to see Ben Bates back in this universe. Super excited about that. Also this week, over at Comic Book Resources, we got a conversation with Victor Gorelick, who is the co-president of Archie Comics and has been a long-time editor, has worked for the company since the 1950s. So it's cool to get a bit of his perspective. You'll definitely want to head over and read that. There's some good insight, basically his perspective on what's going on with the company, the rundown of the last couple of years, and just his perspective on that. So not a lot of new information necessarily, but his take on just what's going on. A couple of interesting things I found in there. The interviewer suggests that maybe Victor Gorelick could be the Stan Lee of the Archie movies, in that he could have little cameos if there are, in fact, going to be a number of Archie movies. He could have those great sort of minor spotlights where he plays the cab driver or the hot dog vendor or whatever. I think that would be totally rad. Another thing that caught my eye is Victor talked about their push to get back to basics, which is cool. He says the crossovers are great and the multi-issue story arcs are great, but what he wants to do, I'm not sure if this is the company's viewpoint or just his own, but he was talking about getting back to basics, doing short, self-contained stories, and getting away from the crossovers and celebrities and things like that. I'm all for that. I think that the crossovers of the last couple of years have been a great experiment, and I'm fully in support of them if they are, in fact, bringing in new readers. I don't know that that's true. I guess we'll never really know. But I'm excited about the company taking a more traditional turn towards self-contained stories and short 8-10 pagers. That would be rad. But a fun conversation with Victor Gorelick over at Comic Book Resources. So that's your news for this week over at Kotaku.com. They've got artwork from Sonic number 250. And Victor Gorelick has a conversation over at Comic Book Resources. Head over to RiverdalePodcast.com. Check out the post for this episode. You'll find links to both of those stories. New releases for this past Wednesday, June the 26th, are as follows. Betty and Veronica Double Digest number 213 for $3.99. We also got Archie Comics Spectacular School Days, DAZE. That's the first of the new line of $5.99 small trade paperbacks. I picked that up. It looks really, really great. Finally, this week from IDW and their Library of American Comics, we got Archie, the Complete Daily Newspaper Comics, Volume 2, 1960 to 1963. That is a $39.99 hardcover. Moving ahead to next week, this coming Wednesday, July the 3rd, we're going to get Archie number 645 for $3.99. That's an oversized summertime special. Art by Rex Lindsay, written by Tom DeFalco, variant cover by Tim Seeley. A regular cover by Fernando Ruiz. Awesome. So excited about this. So excited to see Rex Lindsay art back in Archie. He was drawing Jughead for years before that title's cancellation last year. Great to see him back in Riverdale. Excited about that. It's a $3.99 book, oversized, 48 pages. Also next week, we're going to get Archie Double Digest number 241 for $3.99, and the aforementioned Sonic the Hedgehog number 250 for $3.99. I'm assuming that's going to be an oversized issue as well at that price point. Awesome. Finally, next week, we're going to get Legacy of the Crusaders. This is a $16.99 trade paperback. This is a collection of the classic Mighty Crusader stories from the early 80s, bridged together with new material written by Ian Flynn and drawn by a number of artists, I believe. I'm excited to see what this book looks like, so keep an eye out for that. On the digital side of things this week, we got a few back issues in the Archie digital store. We got Pals and Gals Double Digest, number 130 and 132 for $2.99 each. Tales from Riverdale Digest, number 25 for $1.99. And Veronica number 140 for 99 cents. Those are your new releases for this past Wednesday, June 26th, this coming Wednesday, July the 3rd, and your digital releases for the week from Archie Comics. Finally today, I wanted to float an idea your way. Your guys' way, you guys' way, you folks' way. I recently set up a Riverdale Podcast YouTube channel. I'm going to be posting some various audio pieces from several of the podcasts, probably some excerpts from interviews and stuff, just to drum up some attention for the podcast. There's a lot of people on YouTube, obviously, and some of them are looking for Archie content, so I want to make some of that available in a straight audio format for them to find. But this got me thinking, what are the possibilities for doing any kind of video stuff related to Archie Comics, related to the Riverdale podcast? So I'm throwing this idea out to you guys, the listeners. I know you guys probably have better ideas than I do of what you would like to see. Is there... I don't know if video reviews of comic books are any more fun than audio reviews of comic books or anything like that. But let me know what you think. If you have a great idea, send it in. I'm willing to try most things. Let's give it a whirl. But let me know what you think. If there is a video idea that you have, I would love to hear it. There are a few ways to help out the show. If you like the show, you listen to it every week, there are a few ways that you can help out. Head over to RiverdalePodcast.com. Click any of the Amazon links on the page. There are a bunch of links to different Archie products. If you click on those and then purchase anything from Amazon.com after clicking those links, then a percentage of your purchase goes to benefit the show. So that's awesome. You can also head over to audibletrial.com/Riverdale. You can sign up, get a free audiobook of your choice from over 100,000 different titles. And every time you do that, the show is benefited financially. That's cool. You can also donate to the show straight up. There's a link from the site over at RiverdalePodcast.com. Links to all of these are over there. I really want to thank everyone who's been using those Amazon links and benefiting the show in that way. That's awesome. Thank you so much for your support. On the way out today, I want to remind everyone to head over to RiverdalePodcast.com. You're definitely going to want to see the cover of this week's Book of the Week, Archie's Ham Radio Adventure. You'll also find links there to the news stories we discussed in the news portion of the show. You'll also find links there to like the show on Facebook, follow the show on Twitter, send the show an email at RiverdalePodcast@yahoo.com with any of your thoughts or ideas, praise, criticism. You'll find a link over at RiverdalePodcast.com to subscribe to the show on iTunes. If you're listening on iTunes, please leave a review. Helps people find the show. Just got a new one. That's awesome. You can also listen to the show through the Stitcher mobile app. Head over to Stitcher.com. I think that's everything, you guys. Thanks so much for listening. Again, my name is Jonathan, and I will see you again next week here in lovely Riverdale, USA.